the leaders that we choose, the way they run it, the things that go on and everything. These are the things that we gather to talk about every weekend. And tonight we've got one of our, one of those are special ones. Of course, all our guests are special, I must say that. But she's fire. Usually, there quite a lot of them. They actually they hold back quite a lot in terms of making comments on certain things. But with these guests, it's no holds barred. There's no question she doesn't answer, and she does not shy away from any topic. And if she doesn't want to, if she consider it below her, you say, why are we even discussing that? It's not important. So tonight we'll be talking very quickly about two topics. For those of you who might find the session too short, don't worry. She'll be back in 2 weeks by the grace of God. She will actually be back next week. And so we'll just be looking at these things together. And then, of course, after in 2 weeks' time, we'll be having the one of the special advisors on economics to on the economy to Vice President to the Vice President. So it's quite a very good lineup over the next few weeks. So tonight, very, very quickly with this wonderful guest of ours, we'll be looking at quite a few topics. One of them is changes to, the agri policy, the rice importation policy, and all the anchor borrowers, all the things that are tied to it. So changes to rice and other grown foods, the importation policy somersault or strategic reengineering. That's the first one. Second one, we will be interrogating the legal issues around the Owerri assault on Comrade Ajaero vis-a-vis the recent labor strike. And some of you will go like, but why did you talk about it last week with Comrade Nelson Ekujumi? Well, yeah, because it's a very, very deep issue. And Mrs. Iyabo Awokoya is, Comrade Ekujumi is an activist, a very well-known activist of a few decades reckoning. Mrs. Iyabo Awokoya is also an activist, but in addition to that, she's also a lawyer. So it's good to have that further perspective on it. And of course, this is a topic close to our heart. I do know that about the right policy, the things that have happened with the government, kind of, having to do other things in terms of, changing the policy and everything. So without wasting time, because we've not got all that time tonight, it is my pleasure to welcome one of the most well-known faces. If you're actually if you're on the Nigerian Twitter where they talk, where it is politics, the things that go on in Nigeria, you know that she is she is super active. Let me put it like that. And the kind of person our guest tonight is she's like Marmite. You either hate her or you love her. I'm not really quite sure that she's been in the middle quite a lot. It's either you like her or you hate her, because she just puts her views across. So ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to invite this woman. She's a solicitor of many decades running. She is one of the directors of Sage Consulting NG, and what else do I want to say? But of course, when you see the firebrand in her, you need to the only thing you need to know really that she's me, me. So once you hear that, you just know that, oh, no wonder, all settled. Do you know that's what they say? Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome Mrs. Iyabo Awokoya. Thanks for joining us tonight again, ma.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much, ma. So which of the topics do you have first of all? And I congratulated you behind the scenes, but let me do it out there now. Congratulations on the wedding of your daughter. It was fantastic, and I think we'll probably put in the public domain at times that those dance steps, some of the musicians need to learn it now.
Anyway, thank you very much for having me. And
thank you, ma.
Like you said, I've been a sort of regular guest on your program, and I've always enjoyed myself because you allow people to actually speak their truth all the time, and which is very good. I find that in Nigeria, especially nowadays with emotions going crazy. You are either for the obedient, or you are for the Baptist, or you are a Buharist, and all sorts of titles. We all seem to have gone into an overdrive of emotions, so that before people judge you, they judge you using a prism of what side or what title does that person. And they find it difficult to believe when you say that you're just looking at issues the way you see it. So I hope that this evening with my talk today, people would actually just see that I'm just a Nigerian who wants the best for Nigeria. That's always what I'm. First of all, you've mentioned two things. The first one you talked about is seeming somersault of policies concerning agriculture and the rest of it. Yes, we have heard that rice will be imported, will be allowed back in, although I actually haven't yet seen a direct pronouncement on that. All I know is that the CBN has lifted the ban of accessing foreign exchange for 41 items that used to be ineligible for foreign exchange through the official market. So even in the time of Buhari, it wasn't as if rice importation was banned. It was just that they were not allowed to access foreign exchange from the banks. So right now, those ones have been allowed back in. And I guess people might think that that means that it's an automatic permission to bring in rice. Yes, if that happens, I would want to see how that will play out, because I know that foreign exchange, with the unification of the Naira and dollar exchange rate that was planned, which didn't quite go as well as it was planned, I know that it's going to be very, very expensive to bring in the rice. So I'm not sure that even with the best of intentions of the government in trying to think that if they allow importation, they will be crashing the price of rice. I have a funny feeling that that might not work so well. So I wouldn't yet say to the local farmers that they should stop planting their rice, because it might just be an opportunity somewhere there for their rice to even come in slightly cheaper. But be that as it may, I am a bit concerned about the Ministry of, the Federal Minister of Agric not really being out there in the public space talking about the policy of rice going forward. A lot of people, one of the things I always say, you introduced me as a barrister and a lawyer and everything of decades. That is true. But I always try to let people know that in the past almost 25 years, I have actually been a development consultant. And I keep saying that, yes, and I keep that SAGE's consult is actually not SAGE, because people will mistake it for the accounting package firm. That's not where I operate. My company's name is SAGE's Consult, and we're development consultants. And we work with the World Bank. We consult for the World Bank, international institutions, governments. And so I have a lot of information because of extensive consultation in the public sector. Now, when you look at issues like people, my problem in this country is that we always seem to be permanently in a flux. We don't let things just gestate and run it through before we chuck it away and say, it's not working, let's try something else. There's just too much of that perpetual flux about our policy. And one of the things we learn in development consulting is that you do a situation appraisal before you start. When you start, you're supposed to actually be collecting data. You know, that's what we call monitoring and evaluation. You continually, you would even have decided what kind of data you want to collect before you start the project. So as soon as you start the project, you start collecting the data. That data is what justifies whether your project is actually on course, is derailing. And then we have evaluations at various stages. You know, you have what we call midterm evaluation, you have continuous evaluation, so that at the time when the policy is going through any turbulent, you can almost check on it and say, no, we need at this stage to call it quick. Now, with the CBN, under Emefiele, I'm not sure they set in place things like data collection, because the policy, when you look at the policy of the Anchor Borrowers Popular, and I enjoin people to read, because I don't like people who just come up and talk about things that they have zero knowledge about. If you pick up that policy paper and the action paper, you will see that virtually everything was planned. You know, there were going to be the people who would have the money, the kind of members that could access the funds, the societies that they had to be members of, the governors, the off-takers. Everything seemed nice on paper. If you were farming and they were not even going to be giving money. They were going to be giving, the money will be paid to those who will supply them with seeds, supply them with this. All they had to do was farm, and the off-takers were supposed to be there to come and take the paddy when it was ready. You know, so there was a lot put in place to see that it didn't derail, you know. Now we are all Nigerians. Definitely something will happen. And that's where monitoring was failing. You know, at the point where, just like when Buhari was collecting back some of our money from Abacha, loot, and the rest of it, there were the private sector that were allowed to go and be the monitors to be sure that all the social investment programs and the safety nets that were being given to people were being monitored. So at the time this thing was set up, it should have had a monitoring unit that the NGOs, that's the work NGOs should be doing, to see that the real farmers are the ones getting this. But I don't even want a problem, to have a problem so much with that. That was our first attempt, you know, and we actually said, the CBN gave a report that 50% of that money had been recovered. To me, that is not anything by which one should say the policy had failed, the program had failed. Because if the first attempt you brought into something, you spent 1 trillion, let's even say 1 trillion. We seem to like trillions now in Nigeria, so let me go 1 trillion. And then you have gotten back half of that money back. I wouldn't say 50% is a failure rate, because it doesn't mean that the remaining 50% won't come back in. It means that you have to now find out why that 50% hasn't come in and go after it. So I would rather not have somebody just toss away something that an experience that we have gained in the past 7 years. We have spent money to gain the experience. We have proved to ourselves that we can plant the rice. The rice can be manufactured. The rice can be. We have had so many things that can be counted. A lot of people have brought their meals. Rice meal had almost like tripled or quadrupled or whatever, over 300% rice meals. So there has been a lot of jobs created in that sector. So for us to now not continue just because we are upset that some money didn't come or that the price of rice is rising, and we now say, rather than why is the price of rice rising, what can we do further to drop this price? Where are the bottlenecks? Is it within the transportation? Is it the transportation that is raising the cost? Is it the middlemen that are raising the cost? What can we do to reduce the cost? All over the world, farmers are subsidized. It will be a great mistake to think that in Nigeria, farmers should be blamed for high prices. We have to go in there and find out what is causing the prices. And that's where I have a problem with anybody who says, chuck rice away, let's go after wheat. You know, just a few weeks ago or a few days ago, I read about Malawi that had been trying to get wheat production for almost some 25 years. And this is the first year that they are finally able to produce a bountiful harvest that they are exporting. That's Malawi, a small country. And we do rice for 6-8 years. We see that it actually works. And the next thing we try to do is we say, no, we're hungry. Now, another thing most people, because like I said, I'm an analyst, I'm a development consultant, so I'm trained to look into problems and to find solutions. I'm not trained into failure and say, I'm chucking this, I'm starting something new. I don't, because we have learned, we have used a lot of money to gain the experience that we now have. We shouldn't chuck it away. Otherwise, it's wasted money, sunken cost. So when you look at the issue now, when the government wanted to give palliatives after removing subsidy, they went out buying rice. A lot of people do not know that in itself puts a lot of pressure of demand to the rice market. Where is the supply coming from? It's coming from the same local markets. So the price shot up. It went very, very high because that's what I believe, because the government was buying rice as subsidy. We do not seem to understand that as a direct cost. But we all know that where there's a high volume of demand and the supply is not equal to that, the price will go up. A lot of people talk about rice and say that it's expensive and the rest of it, but we don't look at the activities of the middlemen. My colleagues and I, we got rice because when people were talking, we decided to do some investigation. And there's a gentleman in Ilorin that sells his bags of rice at 38,500. And we decided to come together, and about 4 of us, we bought like about 60 bags of rice. They were transported to Lagos at 1,500 each per bag, and we got the rice for 40. Now that's me directly looking at when people say it is 60,000 in Lagos, it is 50-something thousand. I have a counter experience. I bought rice just about 3 days ago for 40,000 that I intend to give out in December. You know, we already, so you can see that it is not right round it. You know, of course it has gone higher than before, but when we look at we being a very small unit of 4 people, being able to bring our rice down at 40,000 naira per bag, and they are selling the same rice in the markets at 50,000, 60,000, then you know something is wrong. The arbitrage is high. So when we look at a lot of the components of this rice becoming high, you start from all the taxes, interstate taxes on transport. Every local government that the transporter, the truck driver passes through, you will have all sorts of people charging. Customs, immigration, local government. The people spend so much money. I was reading through the report of one particular person that was on this site called Gist Lover, and they said that transportation has shot up from like about 750 in January or 1 million in January to like about 7 million. Of course, we have components of the diesel that has been affected by the foreign exchange. Diesel had already been deregulated. A lot of people will say online that, but diesel had always been deregulated. Yes, but it was at 450 naira to $1. Now you are buying $1 for like about 1,000 because it's still outside. So definitely you are looking at 200% increase in that cost, in that one head of cost, which is just the fueling of the truck. So those are the kind of things we need to look at when you're talking of price, and not to blame the farmer. The farmer is still the one at the bottom that is being ripped off, because every other person is making money off the farmer. And there's this young man, Red Singh, who is always talking and challenging government and telling them, I think he's somewhere in Nasarawa, Gate Farms or something, a very passionate fellow, and who is doing so much on agric. I've also done farming, so I understand from the farmer's point what they are going through. People blame them and then say things, nasty things, as far as I'm concerned, when you say that we've given you time enough for you to be able to drop the price of rice, without anybody actually going in to say what is causing this. If all the governments, all the governors in Nigeria, 36 of them, can sit together and say, for the next 1 year or 2 years, we will allow trucks to pass through without even charging any extra money. We charge anything. You will see how the price of rice will drop. But they don't want to do this because everyone is chasing revenue, and the poor consumer is the one who is bearing the brunt of all this illegal revenue. So we are the ones making rice expensive for ourselves, because rather than face the problems, we are deciding that let's avoid the problem and go to wheat. Wheat is just a bread, you know. Rice on its own is something that virtually is the go-to meal for everybody, poor and rich. So rice is now something that we need to actually focus on. Like I keep on saying, you've created the jobs, the value, a lot of value chain around rice has developed. There's so many things that are coming through from rice. You've got the rice bran, which is used in animal feed. There's so many things. A lot of jobs have been created. Lagos State has the largest rice milling place, Imota. I think they say it's even almost the largest in Africa or something like that. You know, Nigeria, Dangote is the largest in the world. You know, Nigeria, we like to do things very, very massively and big. You know, we have to be the best and the greatest. So when you have all this, how on earth then do you now decide that you are going to open your borders again to rice? And then lose the jobs, lose all the value chain, lose a lot of, I mean, people like Bua and the rest of it who have all gone into farming rice. All they need to do is go and import. They don't need all the stress again. Meanwhile, we are the nation of 200 million people, so and so, with a youthful population that are without jobs. So we can, everything we keep doing, we have to always think of jobs and jobs and jobs for the people. So that is my own view on the rice. I believe that we should go further into rice production and look for all the things that cost it not to be as satisfactory as we want it and solve the problems. Governments are there to solve problems. They are not there to toss away the problem and say, I'm tired. American government subsidizes its farmers, and then they send all they subsidize their maize farmers and send those extra produce that they don't need. They send it to Africa, killing our own local initiative here. So they will subsidize their own farmers there to keep them working. Now give us aids or sell to us those produce. So of course, with that in their own view, they're keeping their own economy running. We here are killing our own economy. Nobody is going to help us until we all decide that it is time for us to solve our own problems in our own manner and not keeping on pandering to the whims and caprices of all the so-called IMF and the rest. I am not a fan of them at all. Never have been, never will be. I'm not an economist, but I did economics in school. And apart from that, I have consulted so much with development consultant agencies, World Bank, the rest of them, that I know what the plans are. It's not a one-size-fits-all. They can't transplant what they do in Indonesia, transplant it to us. We are different. So we are the ones who should always tell them that, no, it's not likely going to work here. We won't allow that. Our children have to be employed. So I think I'll stop there unless you have other questions.
We're going to have questions for you. You've talked, honestly, you've talked very deeply about those things, man. Maybe when next week we'll probably have to delve deeper, because what I've done, and I know some of our panelists, I would actually have one or two questions, but let me take you up on a few things, man. And this is me digging up, even though I've realized that you are now Madam President retired. I don't know when you retired. You know, so there was a place where I think there was a tweet in March of this year where you praised Emefiele and you said, thank you for the anchors. God will bless this man, Emefiele. Of course, a lot of people would easily take you up on that. Thank you for the anchor borrowers program. And then, of course, you went on to say, and the rice revolution, that the implementation of the Naira redesign policy encountered difficulties is not solely on you. Yeah. And I will not join anyone in cursing you. God bless you, sir. So I'm just taking you up on the rice, on the anchor borrowers, and then the rice revolution. Now, I think this tweet was sometime in August, and that was Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State. I believe the rice being distributed by this pragmatic and hands-on governor of Borno State are all Nigerian rice. I've researched the UMZA brand, and it says UMZA classic Nigerian rice. Is there any imported rice that is being distributed by the governors? Because I know for sure that the rice the FGN released from our grain reserves is all Nigerian rice. So if you doubt the revolution that occurred in Nigeria in the past 8 years, particularly on rice production, something surely is wrong with your logic. Now, some will disagree with you on that, man.
Yeah.
This is more reason why we must concentrate on our Greek in Nigeria. Look at the volume of rice in circulation, and yet the price remains high. It is time for state governors to step into price gouging by middlemen in food trade. Let the FGN work with states to chart logistics for food transportation via a mixture of road and rail. Let it be a KPI for the new Minister of Transport. Now you're not actually saying Minister of Agric or Minister of Humanitarian Affairs. You actually went straight for the Minister of Transport. Northern farmers should be assisted to transport their produce to the nearest rail point. This will reduce transportation costs and minimize food waste on account of spoilage. Thank you so much for that, man. But I'm going to take you up. There are 2 states in Nigeria where there are many states that are very well known for production of rice. Gombe is one. Jigawa State is one. So there are quite a lot of states there that the states, ma'am?
Kebbi State.
In fact, Kebbi is the main reference point for most other states. Lagos State even went to try to, partner with Kebbi.
Lake
so
rice.
The question is, even the rice from Kebbi is not cheap. And then the governments of those states, they're actively involved in it. And people are complaining of this. And over in the last 2 weeks, there have been quite a lot of videos in circulation where, some surreptitious videos were being recorded of Nigerians actually debugging foreign rice, imported rice, their own rice, local rice, and now using used bags of imported rice, now rebagging those things and selling at a premium. You've tried to say, Mother, people talking about the greed of farmers is not really the case. But people, is there no greed in there, ma? Is there no greed?
The greed, as you have rightly, I'm so happy that I have still practically reiterated all the things I said in my tweet to show you how constant I am. Virtually all the things I talked about in those tweets is what I've just repeated to you. There is the greed of the Nigerian. The farmers are not the ones bagging. The farmer produces paddy. That rice is taken to the millers. So it's not the farmer that actually sees the end product of the parboiled rice. That comes from the millers. So it is, if you remember when Emefiele was getting all the paddy and showing us the rice pyramids in Abuja, they were all paddy rice. They were not milled rice. So the off-takers came to take those paddy into the millers to mill the rice before it becomes the rice that we're eating. So those people who are rebagging Nigerian rice as foreign, they are the middlemen. They are the people who now buy from the millers and who now decide that since Nigerians are crazy and they want everything foreign, then we will give them what they want. In that regard, we have the FCPC, that wonderful consumer man from my favorite states, where you have a lot of troublesome people there, Kogi State, Irukera, I think. He's there. We have the Consumer Protection Agency. We have all sorts of, the governors of the federal government can come into it. The National Assembly can do a law. You cannot rebag because that is passing off. That is stealing. That's why I said we should solve problems rather than just throwing things about. If your child has a problem, you are not going to go and take another person's child. You are going to sit that child and continue to try and solve and get all the benefit. The government has not, the current Minister of Agric, like I said, he seems to be missing. I wish the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I wish the president had chosen Bagudu from Kebbi as his Minister of Agric, because he did something wonderful in Agric when he was governor. It was under him that we had the lake rise with Ambode. It was under him. He was very involved in the anchor borrowers program. If he had been the Minister of Education and Agriculture, I'm sure we would have gotten something a little bit more focused. I am still looking at the policy on agric from this particular government, and I'm not seeing it coming out bright and sharp and happy. The last Greek person we had, minister we had, that was very good to me was Audu Ogbe. You could see passion, you could see everything around him, and you could see action.
You don't think Akinwumi Adesina was good in that office?
Akinwumi, I would not go as far as saying that, because during Jonathan's admin, I wasn't very active.
Yes.
You know, I'm just one of those people that, just like what I'm trying very hard not to do presently, I just recline into myself once I don't understand what is happening. I just stay off, you know. And the only reason I became active then was that under President Buhari, I actually could understand, I could reason, I could see some of the logic, I could read through, I could see we were having information, even though we thought that they were not doing well with information, but these fake meetings, all the things, and I could read a lot about most of these things. So I felt like I knew what was happening. But right now I see a sort of movement towards wheat, and I don't know why, because we also had wheat before. I don't know why wheat should become so important. Is it that we are bread hungry now and we are no longer rice hungry? So I would have thought wheat and rice should still be in the same. And I would also have thought that maize will be one of our major issues, just like maize was also part of it, because our poultry farm, the poultry sector is suffering because of feeds. And it still bothers me. To me, these are low-hanging fruits. I don't see any reason why we have so many warehouses of churches being converted to churches. When we were growing up, all the Ibadan Express Road, you will see maize farms throughout. Now we don't have any such thing. They're all churches, they're everything, all sorts of weird things happening, as if churches have now become the ones that will provide work. So I don't see any reason why maize cannot be like a southwestern thing for agricultural purpose. I don't see why we cannot just segregate everybody. This is what you must produce into the country. If you are in Ogun State, people are actually, they're doing hemp, growing hemp in Ondo State. We have plantations and plantations of hemp. And perhaps somebody might be thinking, oh, we can export that. That's ridiculous. We need to eat. We don't want to go and create another problem. So why are they planting hemp and they are not planting maize? So there's still a lot. The 36 governors must sit down and actually talk to themselves and say, we are here to do the will and the bidding of Nigeria. This country must move. We must feed ourselves. Anything else, as far as I'm concerned, that does not focus on feeding the population. The next thing I would advise is no woman should have babies for the next 5 years, so that we crash our population. If we can't afford to feed them, then we have to have another, because something has to happen. We can't keep having babies and be projected that in 2050, we would have been the second largest or third largest population in this small space of Nigeria. So we need to actually focus on a lot of things. And agric is one of it that I'm not yet getting the vibe that we're serious about.
Thank you so much, Ma.
Then you talked about transportation. Now, yes, about 2 or 3 times during the last administration, one was some people moved cattle, cows by rail. They moved cattle by rail. Another, about 2 or 3 times, they moved tomatoes in crates, plastic crates by rail. And I keep wondering why that stopped or why it didn't continue. And people have said, oh, some of the rail tracks were damaged along the path. It's not a standard gauge one. The standard gauge hasn't got to Kaduna. It's the other type, you know, but it moved. It actually happened. So again, like I always say, instead of us solving the problem, we have abandoned it. It's not possible. It could be a cartel of the truck drivers that are insisting they don't want to go the rail path. And that is because they are afraid of loss of earnings. One, if you are problem solving, you should anticipate that they wouldn't like it because you are taking away their market. So what do? You sit down and you structure the path. Not all states are connected by rail, but we could have these people, instead of coming directly to Lagos, we could have them feed into a particular place where they can connect the rail. We could have the rail take it from this to Owerri, Itape line. We could just look at the network, and the Minister of Transportation could settle down and do that. Look at a map of how we can get produce moved in a faster way.
Thank you so much, ma. I honestly, I wish we had more time for this, but I know you picked out these two topics, but I know these are great things close to your heart, ma. I know that personally. But there are loads of questions I really wish to throw at you, but I'm going to give room to our panelists to ask 2 or so questions, because I know there was another tweet which was on the 16th of June, and he said the restriction paved the way for import substitution and a Greek revolution. Industrial starch, rice, grains produced at home surged. Value chain of a Greek developed more. You know, this is why they say the internet never forgets. You know, somehow you can dig out these things. So it says, go to ShopRite and see the number of Nigerian products that are now stocked. But some of those Nigerian products, when you get to ShopRite, they're multiples the price of what you get in another store out there. So these are some of the challenges.
No. Let me stop you there. I've actually done a lot of research concerning ShopRite and Spar and a lot of these large supermarkets. And you won't believe that a great number of times they're cheaper than the markets.
Wow.
I used to believe that they were going to be more expensive. So most of us default to Sunday market, we default to Ojuirim, Mushiolosha, default to Okeari. But it isn't so. When you actually look at how convenient it is, ShopRite will sell you Indomie noodles in carton, and they will sell you in pieces. You know, so there's just no, if I'm looking at going all the way to Okeari from Ikeja, where I live, and looking at all the things that I'm going to buy, if all I'm saving from all my trouble is going to be 10,000 naira from maybe spending like about 150,000, I'm not going to bother. You know, I'd rather just shop because it's an opportunity cost. So when you go and actually do a lot of price checks, which I do because of the work, the nature of work that I do, because I'm very particular about facts. I don't just tweet. I make sure that I can justify whatever it is that I see. You find out that those supermarkets, maybe because they are buying in bulk, they are buying straight from they are sometimes at par, sometimes cheaper than the outside shops. Another thing that I would have loved if the government had been planning on doing all these, what do you call it, palliatives, I would have preferred if they had given like Indomie noodles, if they had given those companies making spaghetti, if they had said, this subsidy, instead of buying rice from the people, I'm going to tell you, keep the price you were selling before we did all this. We will pay you, just like Lagos State did on transportation. I would have felt that would be better managed subsidy, because the people already have the money they are going to spend anyway. We're just saying that we want to solve, we don't want them to spend extra because of what we have done to shake the market. So I would have preferred that kind of subsidy where it is the people, because then they would have produced more, you know, and we would have retained, they would have been able to keep staff, you know. But to be very honest with you, we just have to keep praying. That's all I can say, because when people like me talk, they think that some of us are just troublemakers all over the place. And they think that you are just critical. I am not critical in that way. I'm critical on issues. And I do not allow people to just bully me out of the way. I'm critical on issues. I like us to interrogate issues. And then I will disagree and I will agree. If anybody says something else, I'll say, I don't know. But let us face the issues and not go into sentiments.
Thank you so much, Ms. Awokoya. Honestly, I am feeling so bad because we're actually not doing justice, but it's my fault, not yours, because it's so deep. In fact, in preparing for this webinar, I now went and I realized that you had, in fact, there was one you had with a user with a ex-user called Woye, you had a back and forth that I would have loved to actually delve deeper, looking at quite a lot of statutes and all this, but we don't really have the time because we still have another topic. But let me quickly read a few comments, and then I'll just go to one or two people there who might have questions. I'll start with PLIDE Shalafa, but let me quickly read this. PLIDE Lukman wrote here, I agree with her. Most sellers now buy from ShopRite and the rest. And here is one from Taiwo Kunuga. Yes, I stopped patronizing local markets when I knew some of the basic items in many of these shops. ShopRite, etc. were cheaper and trusted. Wow. This is because I've still had a few people complaining about all these ShopRite and all these things a few days ago. So I'll just quickly take a few questions. PLIDE, let us start with you, and then maybe one more. I don't know whether the coordinators or DSGs or anybody has a question. Let me very, very quickly, PLIDE or not Joby as well. Very quickly.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Convener. I want to once again appreciate Barrister Mrs. Awokoya for being on this program again this evening, and most especially for analyzing the programs and initiative of Godwin Emefiele, and most especially the intervention in agriculture. I'm a banker, and I can also attest to the fact that the Anchor Borrowers Program is one of the best initiatives that, if properly implemented, would have solved so many issues regarding food shortages and all of that. But at the same time, she also made mention of policies not properly reviewed, and at the same time, not getting appropriate feedback, on different milestones that those policies might have recorded. And there's no doubt that also that happened to be one of the problems we had in Emefiele. They had policies well written out on papers and all of that. But at the same time, during the implementation stages, we realized that we had shortcomings, we had hiccups, that probably they did not go back to the drawing table, to reappraise and review those policies. And if also looking at, if you looked at the transportation as one of the banes for increase in food prices in Nigeria, it's a key thing, most especially now that fuel subsidy has completely been removed. And these local, market sellers are now leveraging on that to export the masses. It is quite unfortunate that even items that ordinarily, fuel does not have direct impact on. You get to the market and they start giving you excuses. So everybody are looking for an opportunity to make the fellow Nigerians. Even things ordinarily you don't expect. How will you expect three pieces of tomatoes to be sold for 500 naira? We can't always maximize our profit. But, over time, I also realized that we Nigerians are the problems of Nigeria. We magnify issues out of proportion. We just capitalize on little, heresies of the government to also make other Nigerians. That is just what I agree with her, the totality in most of the, the assumptions. I just need to make that known. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. I'll just take one or two more, and let me just take maybe DSG Kunuga or coordinator Kunuga or Stabidemi or Nojobi. I'll take just one of you. You can unmute. Just because of our time, I'm sorry, I can't just take everybody. We still have another topic to go. It's Kenny Okunuga. You're free to unmute. Otherwise, I'll just take Taiwo or Bidemi or Onojobi. Onojobi, you can unmute now. And then we need to move on very, very quickly.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I will use for others. Oh,
okay, no problem. Okay. We'll probably just, Taiwo Kunuga, I think he's struggling to unmute himself. So, because we'll need to move on if I can't get, but anyway, very, very quickly, because on the labor one, I know that last week, Comrade Lukman and co, and they had quite a lot to say. So I'm going to leave that other aspect to them. And I know PLIDE Joshua is in the house as well. So before we switch to the next topic, or maybe I should just leave you to respond to what the Secretary just said, because he said quite a few things there. And of course, there's a statement in the chat here. If you look at another comment there, it says, just bear with me. This one says, farmers are thieves. Wow, that's tough. In Nigeria, they always cheat the buyers. by now they should have crashed the price of rice. Well, you know, so.
I think in fairness, you know, from what we have discussed today, I'm sure a lot more people will not be calling farmers thieves because, like I said, all they grow is the paddy. The paddy is off-taken by somebody who takes it to the milling press. So you can see that at the point of selling their paddy, they have left the hands of the farmers, you know, and the farmer is usually the one who just gets the first bite. It's the same way. I used to have a catfish farm at one time, and I had to deal with, you know, I had to deal all the time with middlemen. I stopped it because it's like you are raising the fish for them. But Lagos State has done something now. They've bought blast freezers. They took a loan and bought blast freezers, and they dropped, I think, 1 or 2 in Badagry and 1 in Ikorodu, and they now have frozen catfish, all packaged like they're coming from abroad, where farmers can continue to just farm their catfish, knowing that they don't have to be looking for the buyers. So somebody is there who is going to take it and blast freeze it, cook it in cartons, and it is frozen, and we are able to buy catfish. You can imagine what that can do if we have such a system in virtually all the places. Lagos and Kebbi were doing such a wonderful thing, you know, with the Kebbi producing rice straight from Lagos and Lagos just labeling it. And now that Lagos has the immortal, Lagos is even doing a lot in agric. Surprisingly, you will expect the states that have land to be more focused. But no, because Lagos State knows it's got the population. Lagos State is doing a lot. They have a produce market that they are trying to do, a big one where everything will just come in bulk and people can turn it into a market like what you have in Mile 12, but in a more settled manner that you have a record of what is coming in. So when farmers know that they don't have to be looking for buyers, they will be able to concentrate on that. And that solves part of the problem of crashing the price. It is that middle thing that we need to crash so that farmers have access to markets that they are not creating on their own, you know? So on that, I think we just need to continue to have these conversations and continue, and the government needs to keep having regular seminars with farmers, regular seminars. You know, it's not just a matter of you talking about extension services alone. They should be able to see a hands-on minister who talks to them. It doesn't have to be, farmers are now very good. They can do webinars, they can do this. It doesn't have to be physical all the time, but give them a sense that you are important, not that you now say farmers are thieves. How many people are in farming? I know that I have little things in my house that I do, I produce. How can you call me a thief? I have to feed my family. So it is what I will have that I will produce. You know, so we should have this. Nobody employed farmers to come and be giving you palliatives.
Oh my God! But you've ended it on a very combative note there, man. So nobody employed farmers to come and give anyone palliatives. But at the same time as well, people have. If you make that argument, man, is it not legit for someone else to make the counter argument that in that case, since nobody employed farmers to come and give us palliatives, in that case, government policies, you know, or discounts or subsidies should not be taken off the board, which is our taxes. Our taxes anyway. A government that does not feed its people will have riots, will have problem on its hands. Yorubas will say, hunger is something that will cause problems. So it is a social policy that the government must definitely intervene. This is the same thing that I was angry at when people were saying that livestock farming is a business. They should not talk about it. How many chickens will you have to feed a family? That one cow would have fed almost 1,000. So we have to, government has to get involved in livestock. Ekiti has done its own livestock now, you know, and they are producing milk and dairy and everything. We need all these things all over. Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure it is producing, man? I asked that question.
It is
because one of the ex-governors of the Ekiti State, Ajaero, she actually started a poultry And
no, forget Ayo Fayose. Forget Ayo. I mean, Ayo Fayose, I'm sorry to say it, just let's forget Ayo Fayose. That was the time of the PDP. They did whatever it is that they liked. There was no accountability, nothing. I mean, that was the one that Obasanjo, the president, got in there, who himself is a chicken farmer, a poultry farmer, got in there and knew that it was all a scam, you know. So forget Ayo Fayose. But when we all saw the imported cows from abroad, there is special red brand, and we saw them, and I have been following up on it. I love agric and I love to see things happening. CBN should, well, they said they are no longer doing it, that's fine, but I think they should just hand it over to somebody else, their blueprint. Then that blueprint has to be identified at data collection. How many farmers are in societies? Do you give the money to the farmers or you give it to their societies, their associations? Who is going to be the one that pays for security? You know, because we have to be able to find somebody. The off-takers, do they have capacity? Who will be the off-takers? I would have preferred if the state governments themselves become off-takers, like Lagos was doing with Lake Rice. Let all the governors say, we are teaming up with this, we will off-take this rice. If that is done, you can be sure that nobody will be doing price gouging and price whatever. But let's go on to your other topic. I think we
Thank you so much, man. I'll just read a few comments and then we need to go because of our time. It's Comrade Ayele. Comrade Lukman put some comments. Problem is not really the farmers. Most of these politicians, they stock it in their homes. You know, most of these products are not really getting to them.
Yes.
And many people are running away from farming, I believe he said. Then farmers are in categories, and of course, that's a very heavy one. That could be subject to defamation, you know. Then, sure, in most of the categories.
No.
Now, for next week, when you come out, one of the questions I'm going to ask you is, still on this agri thing, I'm going to ask you next week, man, as a lender, with a conscience, with shareholders, will you keep lending if only 50? Because you said, oh, the 50% has not come back, it's not a big deal. Will you actually keep lending if 50% of your outlay ever comes back? That's one. And that's for next week, man. And number two will be, would you lend when you know that those who process your lending for you within your system, within your own company, most of them actually have a way of ensuring that they use third parties outside to corner quite a lot of these subsidized facilities. So that will be for next week. Man.
Yeah, next week we'll trash that out. Very simple issues. We'll trash them out next week.
No problem. And so we just go to the next topic, but the question of Comrade Ajaero. And looking at and the topic, of course, interrogating what happened to him, interrogating the legal issues around the Owerri assault on Comrade Joe Ajaero, vis-a-vis the recent labor strike. In the next 10 minutes, man, help us make sense of it.
Well, I'm a little bit biased, not in favor of NLC, a bit biased against them legally. And what I would just say is that we need to look at the laws under which the Nigerian Labour Congress operates and the rest of it. We've got the Trade Union Act, which has the Trade Union Congress Act, which is the one that regulates all trade unions and their regulation, the way they are registered. And the Nigerian Labour Congress is actually an umbrella association of many trade unions, you know, registered because, and if you go through their checkered history, they've actually been in existence before we got our independence, since 1941, 1942. If you remember Pa Imodu, you remember those great trade unionists, they were the ones fighting the Oyibo and the rest of it. And they've had all sorts of problems with military administrations. I think twice, under Babangida and under Abacha, they were actually banned, you know, and then with Adam Oshiomhole came back and we started fighting again and they were allowed to exist. Now, if you look at the Nigerian Labour Congress constitutions, its aims and objectives, it says that they can intervene in any issue, but they must not make it political. They can intervene in anything that will affect the worker, the life of the worker. If I look at, I just don't want to switch sites now, otherwise I'll go and read out some of the objectives, the aims and objectives. But that being non-political is one of the things they are not supposed to do. They're not supposed to take the whole apparatus and the authority of the trade union, Congress, and NLC and turn it into a political issue. Now, this man went ostensibly, as he said it, to go and enforce certain things in Imo State. In Imo State, he got into a fracas with some other people there. He has accused the governor and he called them thugs. He said they were government aides. That is a fact that has to become a fact in issue. What happened to him was an assault and a battery. It's a criminal offense. He was assaulted and battered. We all saw his face, although there was a lot of drama, because from the beating on the face, all of a sudden I saw his hands in some terrible looking cast that seemed a bit contrived. That's the way I see it. But he was beaten up, okay? And that's a criminal matter. Now, he should have reported the matter to the police, or the police should have, after listening and hearing that it happened, should have stepped in to investigate. The police did not do it at that beginning. Maybe because they were waiting for a complainant, because a lot of times we don't know that the police is not a busybody organization unless they see a crime in action. They need a complainant. Somebody has to come and say, this happened to me, and write the complaint, and then they investigate. But if they are there and they see that thing in action, they should have stopped it, or at least arrested the people. Even if they couldn't determine who was at fault, they could have arrested all of them on what we call two fighting in law, AFRE. Just gather all the people that are causing a breach of peace, bring them to the police station, and you begin to sort the issues out. So that was a failing. But it happened to an individual. It didn't happen to Nigerian Labour Congress as an institution. It happened to one person. It's a crime. You can't beat up an institution. There's nothing like that, beating up Nigerian Labour Congress. You can't beat them up, but you can beat officers of the, and it becomes a personal matter, a personal injury that should have been investigated. So to me, using the apparatus of the whole NLC, just because you have that power, to now go on a strike. It wasn't just a strike. The first thing they did was to disrupt airfares, airline business in the federal capital. They blocked roads. And to me, I don't even know what the National Assembly is doing, that they have not seen it fit to regulate the way people go on their demonstrations. Because to me, we wait a lot in Nigeria for things to go wrong. At the beginning, I was one of the people who was screaming about social media regulation long before it became a problem. And I kept saying it. Everybody said, we have too many laws. We have the cyber stalking. We have this. They are not appropriate. They don't cover the modern social media problems we have. Right now, people will tell a lie. A lie, I keep on saying to people that defamation is different from telling lies. The fact that you tell a lie doesn't mean it is defamatory. Defamation has to make me to become hated. It must bring me into opprobrium in the eyes of right-thinking members. A lot of us don't believe 3/4 of what we read, you know, so we will not see that person and have opprobrium for the person. And defamation calls upon me to be the one to charge. So I spend money chasing after an idiot who has injured me. So social media should have had something, a different one, like, okay, you tell a lie, I give you an opportunity to retract immediately. If you don't retract, then that is when you are asked to come and pay a fine or something. But let's leave that. So they have done nothing about social media. We see how that has become a problem, almost breaking a nation with lies and things. Then the second thing is, look at NSAS. Look at what happened. Look at the destruction. Because people just felt they had a right to take over and demonstrate. Left to me, you are free to demonstrate, but we should even give them a place where they can go and demonstrate. You can't just demonstrate anywhere. Go to the office of the government or something. Let government prepare a park for them there to be demonstrating and be making their noise. But they can't be harassing every other person, because the same rights they have to demonstrate is the same right that I have to say I don't want to demonstrate and I need to go about my own business. So I think National Assembly shouldn't just be sitting down watching activists. You called me an activist, and I don't want you to call me activist, because in Nigeria, those names are just another title. I'm just a natural, passionate Nigerian. I'm not an activist of any. I don't even know what cause I'm fighting for. Just Nigerian, that Nigeria should be better. So in that way, if you insist on calling me activist, a Nigerian activist then. You know, so I believe that Ajaero went overboard. It was a personal issue. The minute the government said, we are investigating, once the police, sorry, were able to come out to say, we are investigating, there shouldn't have been a strike. Because that is all they owe him. You were beaten up, we are going to call and we will prosecute the people who beat you up. That is all the nation owes him. The nation does not owe him as an NLC person. He's not the president of Nigeria. He's not the governor that we are going to be giving police escorts to. We don't. There's nowhere in the Constitution of Nigeria that says every human being that holds any public office has a special permission, that it is the whole nation of Nigeria that offends him when somebody offends him. He doesn't have that. So if he's beaten up, he's just like me. If somebody beats me up, I'm going to report to the police and I'm going to get justice. He can sue. If he likes, he can now sue Imo State personally, but he will need that police report. He can now sue Imo State and say, Imo State governor knew about those people. He will have to go and prove it, but he has his remedy. His remedy is not in the strike. And somebody should tell him, you know, that his remedy is not in the strike, and we should also be asking him to almost recompense all of us that he made us lose money. Those who could not go on their flights, he should be sued, you know, because he just made everybody to bear a burden that we did not create, you know. So legally, I think Ajaero was totally wrong to proceed on the strike. There's a way they declare strike. And again, to me, also the government should not have sort of dared him by inaction. You know, if somebody...
You're muted suddenly, ma. I think you're muted. Mrs. Awokoya, we can't hear you anymore for whatever reason. The connection is frozen and then you're muted, ma, if you can hear us. This has been very interesting. Whilst we wait for her to fix these things, I'm just going to quickly read the comments and see if anybody has a comment. If anybody wants to join the conversation or ask a question, then you can just quickly come in. We should be rounding off in about 8 minutes, just stretching it by just no more than 15 minutes. So from there's one here from PLIDE Joshua who wrote here, from the evidences he reported, and the police, he said the police was actually, the police force, they actually acted on the side of the of those who assaulted it. That's what PLIDE Joshua has put here, that Comrade Joe Ajaero actually reported that it did appear that the police they actually supported this. Okay, so Mrs. Awokoya is back. Mrs. Awokoya is back. If you can hear us, ma, we're just going to spotlight this straight away. I think she's back now. So Mrs. Awokoya is back. So we'll just wait for her to join the chat. And once she's fully back, yeah. Oh, welcome back, ma.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now, ma. We lost you there for a while. We don't know what happened. We couldn't.
Yes, I think I think it was just my network that
okay, ma. So
decided
just
to misbehave. Yeah.
Okay, so just quickly reading a few comments whilst we're there's someone who wrote here, he said, well, from the report that Comrade Ajaero gave of the incident, that actually the police were on the side of those who assaulted him. That's what he's put here, PLIDE Joshua. And this PLIDE Shalafa wrote there, you are right, man. The Nigerian Labour Congress president shouldn't have used his office to publicly propagate his political interest. That was against the oath of office he swore to uphold. However, his brutalization is condemnable and unheard of and should not be condoned in a democratic setting. The NLC president is a symbol of NLC, and his brutalization is a slap on the NLC, though he heard for using his office for clear political gains. What would you say about that now? And if anybody else has a question, just quickly raise your hand, a comment, because once Ms. Awokoya responds to this, we're just going to take one or two comments and then get her to respond. That's it. Over to you, ma.
Yeah, to be very honest with you, I don't subscribe to this two wrongs do not make a right or two wrongs make a right. The first thing is that what was he doing there in the first instance? At the time of political, when they're having elections and they're doing campaigns, that's when you decided that you are going to go and raise some issues which you didn't raise on labor. So it was mischief. I don't think anybody plans to go and beat him. I don't know Hope is Uzodima. I'm just looking at facts and saying that you went there, you put yourself voluntary, we call something in law, voluntary assumption of risk, voluntary non-fit injuria. It's a political season. You are not circumspect. You go there and you start interfering and you don't expect that other people too would react. So to me, it is a question of two fighting. Honestly, two fighting. He was beaten up. His own people too would have tried. They just overpowered him. It's not as if he didn't also have people that were beating up others. So they were fighting. Left to me, all of them should be rounded up and taken to the police station. Let them solve the whole matter in court as afraid. Not that one person was. Because by saying he was assaulted, we're looking at his face. And we are already judging that the people who beat him up were wrong. That is still a fact to be decided in court. We have defenses, you understand? If you and I are fighting and I happen to overpower you and I give you more blows than you give me, does it mean that we were not fighting? So the court still, we cannot prejudge the evidence. The court still has to hear it. And to me, it is not so much of an assault because that means that it was unprovoked. It was unprovoked. I was sitting down, JJ, you came and you slapped me. That is assault. But when we are fighting, two of us are fighting, I can have a defense that you were the one who first of all hit me and I retaliated. So until we get into court and hear the evidence, we can't prejudge and say it should be condemned. He's a symbol of the NLC. What symbol? I'm sorry, does he have an insignia of office that I should now protect? What is NLC? NLC is just a labor organization. So in my own estate here, our resident association, I should now say I'm a chairman of resident association. I'm a symbol of my
that's
estate. It's not brutalizing. What kind of estate? He doesn't deserve all that drama, and that's how we continue to build them up and give them credence. The next time, and now when he does something worse, we will say as a symbol of NLC. Until a court pronounces that those who brutalized him were wrong, it is still open.
Mrs. Iyabo Awokoya, fire. Madam President retired, fire. I'm just going to take 2 or 3 comments and then we'll get you to respond and then we'll call it a night. Okay. I don't know. I know last week that I applied at Joshua. Any other person, please feel free to raise your hand. But I applied at Abidemi or Nojobi. I know you usually have questions at times like this, but I know that I applied at Ayole last week. Lukman, I had a lot to say when we had applied at Comrade Nelson Kuchumi, and I know that Joshua has done some postings on our group in regard to this. So I'll get 2 of you. If any one of you that wants to say something about this, and also Mrs. Sergeant, you actually heard what Ms. Iyabo Awokoya said there. do you want to rephrase your question, or do you feel you're sorted like that, even though that was like a brutal put down of that analysis of the NLC president being a symbol of the association and all those things? So let me give the space to three of you. And any other person, please just know that keep it 1 minute so that questions don't go past 5 minutes, and then we need to round up very, very quickly. So you may unmute yourselves, either PLIDE Lukman, PLIDE Josh, or Shalafa. Very, very quickly, please.
Well, the convener, sir.
Oh, yeah. Because you said, I didn't know you already know. Apologies. That's my coordinator. So please go on, PLIDE Taro.
Yes. Yeah. Good evening, my convener, and everyone on the webinar tonight. Well, I followed keenly the conversation, and I so much have to commend the submissions of our guests tonight. Well, on the NLC, I align with our thoughts on the NLC. Over time, prior to the election, and even our president has been seen to be obviously playing political cards. And in the instance of what happened in Imo, if he had died in the scene, I do not think that anything would happen afterwards, because it was what because he volunteered to be in a place that he should not have been at a point in time. I also do not, as much as I feel that people can demonstrate. Demonstrations all over the world are not like we do in Nigeria. People have their rights, like Madam had said, not to decide to be a part of of demonstrations. I take, for instance, in the UK, in London, we have almost on a daily basis people protesting against the Israeli strikes, and we also have people. We have people from the Palestine, protesting on a daily basis. We have tags in many bus stops in London, tagging the Prime Minister as this, as that. But never has there been a time where other individuals deciding to follow their daily paths, while disrupted. I think Nigerians should just try to be a little more, than now, a little more, I don't want to use the word sensible, but I think we should just try to do more in terms of shutting airports. When you shut the airport, you are not just, it is not a war. It's not a fight against the government. It is a war against the citizens of Nigeria, and not just against the citizens of Nigeria, against the world itself. Because at various points in time, people do bookings. They want to travel out of the short airport. You affect a lot of issues. You have a lot of things, on the side of even individuals who are just trying to pass through, their daily courses. So I feel that the idea of always shutting airports should be stopped forthwith. And I think, like Madam had said, legislative arm of government in Nigeria should try and do something, in this regard. The NLC president that was beaten, as much as I do not feel that it should be beaten, but in a political, within the atmosphere of how it happened, it was a case of I fight you, you fight me. I fight you, fight me. It was highly unreasonable to go and do demonstration in a state where election was going to take place in barely less than 24 hours. It was unreasonable in barely less than 24 hours. It was obvious that was a fight against the government, and the government was even magnanimous. Other individuals, other governments, a fire chief, for instance, of Ekiti State, applauded to him. Other governments will have attempted killing on him. And nothing would happen. Nothing would happen. The NLC will continue to be NLC after his death, God forbid. God forbid. God. So I think we should just try to be careful in the ways and manners, we go by what is. Nigerians they are one-way traffic. And when they are agitating, they do not consider other side of the game. I strongly Progress lost. Yeah, and
Just,
yeah. Progress lost. Yeah, and I wish I can talk more,
if I may
but
just...
my wife is on the, but my wife is talking underground. Is on the call, and I know the information is conflicting. Yeah, and so let me just stop. Maybe I can have a more environment to talk some other time. Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's our coordinator in Oyo State. Thank you so much, PLIDE Okunuga. Really, he's always very there are two of them we have. They're really very deep when they choose to contribute to issues. You know, when they step in, it's like so. Thank you so much. Just so that we have Mrs. Iyabo Awokoya round off everything. Let me take any, is there any other person? PLIDE Lukman. Yeah, very, very quickly, please. Keep it strictly to 1 or 2 minutes. PLIDE Lukman, very quickly. And then I'll take, I believe PLIDE Fayemi does not want to talk. He's actually typed what he wants to say. So I'm just going to read that. So let's quickly have you.
All right, sir. Good evening, my convener. Good evening, PLIDE. Good evening, man.
Good evening. Good evening.
We enjoy you and we appreciate having you always here because you are always straightforward. You speak according to your beliefs. God will continue to strengthen you. Yes. And on the issue of protests in Nigeria, I always discover that when they are celebrating international days like that, when they organize the protest for international, maybe GAHRD International Day, for example, they will protest, they will go to government office. But when they are protesting against that same government, they will be disturbing the masses. They will not take their protest to governor's office or national assembly. That has been the issue in Nigeria. That is why I see most of our so-called comrades. I don't know. I don't understand them, so I don't want to say something. But there's one thing, Ma. You said something about Ajaero. You said it was a personal issue that is not NLC issue. My question is, does it mean that the protest, the Imo State protest, was not supported by his fellow NLC member? Because I remember he said he organized the protest on the name of NLC. And when such happens, if that is according to his claim, definitely it's NLC issue. So I don't know. I don't understand that part of it, man. I don't know if you can put more light.
Yes.
Thank you so much, man. So I'll just read the PLIDE Fayemi's comments. And of course, he's gone ahead to PLIDE Fayemi. Let me give you 1 minute. That your comment, that your question, please quickly voice it, because you posted a link there that I'm sure Mrs. Awokoya can easily check as well. Please quickly voice your comment, just 1 minute. I believe PLIDE Onojobi doesn't want to say anything. And is there anybody? I'm not sure I've left anybody out. Yeah, quick. Oh, PLIDE just unmuted himself. Okay, go on. PLIDE Fayemi, let's have PLIDE Onojobi and then PLIDE Shola Fayemi, and then that's it.
Yeah, good evening once again. Madam President retired. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Yeah, I think something happened on the lighter note. Something happened to President after they have retired. Okay, that's on a lighter note. Okay, you made mention on the fact that I want to take it that you presented as a fact that labor leaders are not supposed to be political. However, I'm aware that in other parts of the world, and even I will come back to Nigeria, the labor leaders sponsor political party, which they use as their political platform to advance their political interests. Like you have All India Trade Union Congress being a major sponsor of Communist Party of India, right? And in Nigeria, we know quite well that Nigerian Labour Congress is a major sponsor and indeed member of the governing architecture of Labour Party of Nigeria. So if labor leaders are not supposed to be political, why would the country allow the Nigerian Labour Congress and the TUC to register Labour Party in 2002? I'm struggling with that. If they are not allowed to be political, why would they be allowed to register a political party, which they are part of the organs of that political party?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, PLIDE and Ojobi. Thank you so much. I believe Kenny Okunuga is maybe he can't because I've tried to call him a couple of times. So, Seth Jenna HQ, do you want to quickly voice your comments? Do you want to quickly go ahead, please?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Convener. Barrister, like I said, although Taiwo has
even though someone has already fired you back, and this is
yes. I also want to try. Yes, I also want to try and
you use the double barrel gun, and the person used a submachine gun to fire you back. You know.
Yes.
So,
no, I want to use I want to use a machine gun this time around. You know, in this same country, Nigeria, we've had cases of the NLC president, for example, Adam Oshiomhole. You know, he was a highly respected person, and all of us also knew his political leanings. It's in this same country, we've also had the NBA president who had 1 or 2 times, for example, Rotimi Akeredolu, who at a time too were president of different organizations, and thereafter, you know, they metamorphosed to occupy political positions. What I've been trying to say is that it is sometimes difficult to differentiate the political leanings from the activities of these leaders. Many of them see it as a stepping stone to publicize and materialize their political interests. And that was what we had. Like I said initially, it was wrong for the president to have used his office, you know, to publicly propagate his political intention or to as well show where he belonged to. But at the same time, the assault too is totally condemnable. And what I said is this, you know, he was at the NLC office. At that time, he was serving as a symbol and the president of LLC, representing the interests of workers. Fine, we might always be putting a political undertone. He has another political intention or thereabout. But he was in his secretariat, NLC secretariat. And a slap on him at that particular time was a collective slap on the entirety of Nigerian Labour Congress in the country. We should not mix it up because of our interest or probably on the side of the country we belong to. I'd rather not say the truth the way it is. It's like a announced president or an NBA president beating in an NBA office in Ikeja because he believes, okay, maybe because he was there a day or 2 days to election, and because of that, we're now beginning to put political insinuation into his activity. It is wrong. What is wrong is wrong. It's a symbol, it's a leader of NLC. Fine, you know, we might have political insinuation, which you might not agree with. But at every point in time, a symbol of an organization is a leader of that organization. And a slap on him is a slap on the generality of the members of that organization. That is just my point. Thank you.
And you said the president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, so you wrote here, and of the NBA, which actually directly goes for Mrs. Awokoya, because that's she's a member of the NBA. You know, president be NBA president be beaten the same way. And of course, the person who fired back did right here. NBA president wouldn't go on public protest in such a manner. Ajaero should ordinarily. But just before you go into that, I'm going to mention the peculiar case of Olumide Akpata. Olumide Akpata was NBA president when the governor of Edo State refused to swear in many, I think about 12 or 13 legislators representing constitutional districts within the state. All through, I can't remember one time that he made mention of it. His legality, he never ever saw that. I think he had a convenience period, and all of a sudden he can see everything going on everywhere in Nigeria now that he's a governorship candidate in Edo State. You know, so for me, I with all due respect, but I'm very sorry, but maybe this is not the same.
I think you should let me.
Go on, man. Go on, man.
I think
so. Yeah, please, man, respond to everything you read.
Let me respond now.
Yes,
let me respond now.
Go on, man.
You know,
go on,
I want Mr. Fayemi to understand me that I am not saying what happened to him is wrong or is correct. What I'm saying is that a crime was committed, and that crime can only be investigated and prosecuted by the police. So him now deciding that a personal injury and assault on his person, because he was the only one that we saw beaten up. We didn't see all the other labor people beaten up. If there are about 4 of them that were beaten up, those are the complainants. The police has said they are investigating the matter, right? That is what should be done. If my president of the NBA gets himself into a fracas with anybody else and he suffers injury, it is the same thing that will be done. The matter will be reported to the police and it will be investigated, and whoever is found, if the police find a prima facie case, they will take him to court. That is law. We should be very, very careful about letting emotions get in the way of law. Something happened, an investigation must be done, then it should be charged to court. And like I said, if they are writing their statements, those other people too can say he was the one who started the fight. They can say that it's his people that did it. So you cannot prejudge just by the weight of what we see and say, okay, we have judged that he was indeed assaulted. It's still a question of facts that have to be proved in court. So right now, to me, there was a fracas. He should be investigated and he should be taken to court. But please, 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 I will not waste too much of my emotions on something that the law can easily solve. The fact that he now decided to turn it into a whole labor issue and now go after my own rights, that is again another infringement that he could be sued for, because it isn't my problem. I wasn't the person who beat him up. You said that he went to a labor to go and enforce a labor issue. The week after this Hope's Odima won, the same NLC in his home state were busy there celebrating their governor. That same day, they said he wasn't invited. What was he doing there? You know, so there's so much issue around it. And when I said that the NLC is not supposed to be political, I'm talking about you not propagating a particular political ideology on your members. Are you getting the point? If you look at, I put the link there for their aims and objectives. It's all about the workers, and there's not, if you look at the Trade Union Act itself, you are not supposed to use that front to propagate an ideal. Anybody is free to register a political party, but it doesn't mean that the labor NLC will now begin to force everybody into an ideology of one particular person who has a political interest. Adams Oshiomhole was there. It was when he left that he went into politics. He wasn't a member of the NLC when he went into APC and became a politician. You know, so definitely, if you want to go into politics, you resign and you step out. You can't be using the platform. There's a conflict of interest. You can't use the platform. And that's one of the problems that was dogging the obedience throughout. And that's why this other man who went to court to say that he's actually the authentic Labour Party person was able to get a lot of these things through in court. So there is a conflict. Once there is a conflict of interest between the NLC and a political party, and the officers are the ones causing that conflict, there's a conflict. He has to step out of the place. That's my view, you know, but they are not supposed to be political. In fact, they are supposed to be apolitical as an NLC. Because different people will be in the NLC now. Are you going to say everybody who is in the Labour Congress becomes a Labour Party person? No. You are free to choose whatever political party you want to be. And you need to realize that NLC is just controlling how many people? The whole civil service of Nigeria, entire 30-something, how many are they? That we will now take a whole Nigerian population and begin to harass us all over the place. Sorry. I think I've answered virtually everything.
I think PLIDE Okunuga made some comments somewhere, but I think you've actually gone through everything mainly, except I think you're reading through now. So let's just give you a minute to do that, Bar. So if there's anything you want to add to that.
Well, somebody said that was not even a protest; it was a rampage. Okay, I just don't like what I call agent provocateur. You know, an agent of provocation, if I may just translate like that. You know, you just go to a situation to provoke a problem, you know, and then you now come out and you are the victim. I mean, I feel sorry for him that he got beaten up, but I'm not going to waste so much of my time on it because it's a criminal matter that can be sorted out. He should be prosecuting that case. He should be shouting. Why are they not prosecuting the police or shouting on his behalf as well? That let's get the people prosecuted.
Thank you so much, Ma. Because of our time, we just because and added to the questions I talked about earlier. Next week, I'm going to be asking you that question that if, for example, if there are going to be elections in Ogun State in January, and normally, is it ethical? You know, but I'll leave it till next week, but is it ethical? Because for NLC or any other union that could actually sway the vote to go in there, let's say, quote and unquote, this governor has been said to be a bad governor, quote and unquote. And then we know that going there would actually sway the voters a day before, and they will start protesting pensions and some other things. Are there questions of ethics? Some of these things, yeah. Legality on one side, morality and ethics on one side. On the other side. These are things we'll probably talk about next week. But I just want to thank you, man. And I'll just quickly read this and then get our sergeant to do the vote of thanks. When the various political parties failed, Labour Party can salvage the situation. So I believe giving them that right to have a political party is not wrong. Just that the NLC president is too emotional in his decisions on national issues. And then there is a difference between Labour Union and Labour Party. The Labour Party remains a platform like the PDP, APC, etc. It's not an aggregation of the workforce. Don't mix it, please. Then it couldn't differentiate between fighting for a politician and fighting for the masses. You know, the NLC isn't even in control of the whole civil service. They only control a section, the junior staff category. And he went on to write the senior staff category belongs to TUC. So it's a very, very interesting topic. We could go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. But I just want to appreciate you, right? I think it was PLIDE Okunuga who was like, well, if he got killed, then nothing will happen. I was frightened when he was saying those. You know, Comrade Okunuga was like, you know, he went there to cause trouble, so he could have, that even the governor pitied him. I'm like, the governor pitied him and he was so badly beaten up like that. So if he wasn't pitied, you know, so basically what he talks about is, on a more serious note, what he talks about is just the range of emotions that the actions of the NLC president has actually brought about across the divides. There's those who were very supportive and those who were very, very much against it. But I want to thank you. I mean, Iyabo Awokoya said, anybody who lost anything as a result of that strike, please, that you're able, just like the same thing Comrade Nelson Ekujumi said last week. I even put him to him. I said, but you fight for the right of the masses all the time. Why can you not take that as a legal point, take it to court? That quite a lot of people, but of course, he said doing that will make him a busybody, and I quite understand. Thank you so much, everyone. Let me call on SGIHQ to do the vote of thanks in our usual style. And don't forget that next week, Sunday, we're having Mrs. Iyabo Awokoya again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Convener. Yes, like I said previously, Taiwo was so mean in that comment because he wanted an NSC. he wanted an NSC president to be completely maimed. But nevertheless, yes.
Maybe that's why the Kenny is not talking, because the Taiwo said the person could have, they could have killed Ajaero. Maybe the Kenny would have actually said.
Kenny wouldn't have agreed. Yes.
He would have said they would have buried him alive. So he didn't want to say it. That's why he kept quiet.
So, Ma, we sincerely want to appreciate and thank you once again for coming here this evening and for shedding more light on the issues surrounding rice production, human rights abuse, the need for us to safeguard our nation, and for us to have food security. Like you said, it's a key thing, and I will appreciate if our government can begin to, look at issues critically and deeply the way we should explain it, away from the fantastic approach we have on papers, but looking at the practical implementation of those policies. We know that Nigeria will definitely be better. So we want to sincerely appreciate you and thank you once again for coming. And like Convener said, we're also looking forward to having you again next weekend, while we also look at the area of other issues and how to project and move forward as a nation. So we want to sincerely appreciate and thank you for always. And in the same vein, I thank all our members who join us, our in-house leaders, and everyone who joined us on social media, who have consistently been staying glued to us so as to make this nation a better country. We thank everyone for joining us, and we thank you all for being part of our programs. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful evening and a glorious week ahead.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you.
Madam President retired. We hope you reconsider your retirement by the time you come next week, ma.
I'm enjoying my peace now.
Because maybe next week, ma, we're still live. I mean, the webinar is done, so anybody can leave. But in the next 2 minutes, we're still live, but informally. Maybe next week I'll take you up on these, even though I know you probably say don't go there. These Tinubuist, Buhariist, and Oshibajoist, quote and unquote, that I think you're so, it's caused quite a lot of difficulties in your camp, so how did you get that bad? Please, webinar over. If you want to drop, you can go.
I think it's just an unnecessary emotional, should I say, overdrive by most people. Some people could say by me too. But
you're a Buharist, man.
Yes, I've always been a Buharist, and
you supported Oshibajo in the primaries, man.
Yes, in the primaries, but I always knew that, you see, at that time I was APC. So it was never a problem with me. I always knew that whoever won the primaries would still be my candidate.
You are no longer APC now. You're no longer APC. What? You're no longer
I've left APC quick.
Okay.
Before they kill me, I've left them quick.
Before they kill you, how do you mean, man? What?
No, it was becoming, I don't think people were able to now separate issues from personalities, and I was trying very hard to stick to issues. My point was that this is the same APC. They are different, all over the world. Your Labour Party in England, your Conservative Party, there are different types of caucuses within those parties.
Absolutely.
It's never one. The whole thing is that all of us will look at the ideology of the party and we'll see where we fit in. But within the party, there will be many caucuses. So there's no reason why we can't accommodate Buharist, PYOist, BRF, Aregbesola, and everybody. There is no do or die, as far as I'm concerned, in a political party, because everybody cannot be thinking the same way.
Sorry, but I this is webinar after webinar. Pardon, for as long it won't be long. But I'm going to put a very dangerous question to you, man. You said for you, it could have been, you wouldn't have minded, whoever emerged, that you had somebody you supported, which was Professor Yemi Oshibajo in the primary.
Yeah.
And then it's because I'm aware of it, because I've been trying to put our webinars together. I've reached out to many people who will say to me, oh, this and this and this. I suddenly realized that people that I'd seen from afar to be, activists in the same bag, all of a sudden they're divided and all this. So let me put this question to you, man. If it turned out that Chief Peter Obi and Alhaji Atiku Abubakar
Yeah.
Well, of course, you're no longer part of that party, you said. If they were part of that party, and I've seen your criticisms of Obi in particular, for example.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if Peter Obi was in that APC at that time and he won the primaries, would you not have supported him?
If he had won the primaries, there's nothing I would have done. I would either have left APC if I couldn't support him. Or
no,
I would have.
I don't want you to leave it in the realms of conjecture, man, because I've seen quite a lot of criticisms of Obi from you. So are you saying that Obi is fit for office or not fit?
Don't put words into my mouth.
First,
hold on. First, it's hypothetical. Obi is not in APC, and he most likely wouldn't have been in it. But if he had been in APC and I had all these problems against him that I believed, I wouldn't be in that party. I won't support him. What I will do is, if I want to remain in the party, I will not campaign for him. I won't say a word, and I will not vote
against him.
I won't vote for him or against him. I'll just abstain. If I stayed on in APC, you understand? You know, if I was a real party person, some people are party people, that it's all about the party and not perhaps about the ideology. Some of us are about the ideology first and foremost, you know. So for me, there's an ideology that drives me, you know. So I would probably, if I was not leaving the party for whatever reason, I told you I lost my brother at the time of the election. My brother passed on, my immediate brother passed on March 3rd. But I couldn't say a word because of the elections. I didn't want my personal pain to make people feel sad or distract. So I kept that to myself and still continued with the campaign, because we have to be able to separate emotions from what is happening. It's a fight for Nigeria. So it's the same thing. If I couldn't have supported somebody that was chosen, I would have just stayed clear. I won't talk, I will not say a word, and I will not vote.
What if you, of course, we know next week we're having you and this man who has not said a word since he's suddenly talking. It's interesting conversations. I followed it A to Z. So I think he actually follows you on social media, I believe. And Shalava Emiro, Nigeria would have been better if our politicians are driven by ideologies rather than political sentiments. And of course, Comrade Ajaero, you're right, but even at the local level. Now, so I think he's saying the fight went on to the local level, you know, because, you know, so if it was Atiku, you know, of course, next week we're talking about the president's certificates, the CSU thing, the Supreme Court rulings and everything. But what if it was Atiku? Because I'm just trying to marry some of your public comments and saying, now your public comments against these two politicians, Atiku, I've not really seen you write much against Kwankwaso, to be honest. But I've seen you write a lot about Atiku and about Obi, maybe because they're more major.
Yes, because I have lived their lives along with them. I've known Atiku now from so long. I know the man. You know, it was not difficult for me to prefer our president now to the two of them. It wasn't difficult at all, because on the one hand, all you have to do is listen to Peter Obi and look at the way he talks. From day one, his statistics, because I'm a statistics person, I'm a data person. Like I told you, I'm very, very factual. I look at issues on statistics. So when somebody decides to start talking about statistics and is quoting wrong things in things that I know, it worries me. So from him, I don't even want to talk about whether he did so marvelously well in Anambra, because I wasn't following him or knowing about him in those days. But from his public utterances, he just seems not to be able to dig deep into issues. You know, he has no solutions. He always has analysis of problems. You know, Shehu, he will analyze the problem. Every Nigerian analyzes problems. Even the madman on the street has an opinion about what is wrong with Nigeria. You know, but we need people who will give you solutions. This guy wasn't doing any. And Atiku, I've never believed in Atiku. His antecedents we are still solving. Buhari spent almost 8 years solving Atiku's problems, you know, all those privatization and the rest of it without paying people off and doing everything. We got nothing out of it when he privatized so many of those things. And the man Atiku to me just doesn't have the capacity, you know, when you look at his background, I mean, I always say these things and people think I'm not very nice, but this is a man who started, he failed his mathematics. He couldn't even get into police. He had to be sent out of police again. And then he went to customs. Then somehow the other he did environmental science, which I call wole wole. You know, all those things were just like, they're not there. The foundation isn't there, you know.
So what you're saying, Ma, is anybody, I don't know, maybe let me even use
BRF was my choice. BRF was my choice, just in context.
Let me say my RSG Nigeria now, Comrade Ajaero, for example. Of course, I'm not just, this is just a joke. Let's say he's very
anyway, we are finished your webinar.
He's very poor in mathematics. Let's say he's very, so because he's poor in mathematics means he won't qualify to be president of Nigeria. Is that what you're saying? He said he failed.
Why are you saying this? I said I looked at his antecedents. I've already given you some of the things he did that he didn't do well. His privatization policy was there. You can't be somebody who holds Nigeria by the jugular in respect of something, and then you are now holier than thou and try to tell me when you are part of the people who took. I don't want to commit anything that is publicly here, you know.
Thank you so much, man. Let us release you at this point. Everybody, thanks for staying behind. We're just having an informal chat after the webinar. I mean, Iyabo Awokoya, you are the bomb. You're just always, you're always class A class. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you, man. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a fantastic week ahead. God bless you. Bye for now. Bye.
Bye.